So it was both the good and the bad for the Atlanta Hawks this weekend, right? Look, let's go back to Friday night. First off, Friday night was terrific. That was obviously a big time environment. We talked about this, that, what was the environment? What was the crowd going to look like? The crowd was into it. By all accounts, it was not nearly as many Celtic fans there on Friday night as maybe what we thought. So great crowd, great environment. You really did think that the Hawks were going to come back home and win, and they took care of business. 130, 122. Trae Young was outstanding. He was 12 of 22 from the field. He had 32 points and 9 assists. DeJounte Murray had a huge night. He was 25 points, 5 assists, and 6 rebounds. Trae had 6 rebounds as well. And they really led the way offensively for this team, right? I mean, they really felt like that they took control of the game down the stretch, and they led this team the way that they need to lead this team. Then we fast forward over to Sunday night, and Hawks lose 129-121. DeAndre Hunter, and we're going to talk about him in just a little bit, he had a monster game, right? 27 points. He was 11 for 17 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3. Trae had another big night. He was 11 for 26, didn't shoot the ball as well, 11 for 26, 4 of 10 from 3, was 9 for 11 in his free throws, but 35 points and 15 assists that he had. DeJounte had 23, 9 rebounds and 6 assists and all that. So, look, now we're looking at down 3-1. And Tuesday night will be game 5, I should say. Game 5 will be Tuesday night up in Boston and things like that. So the Hawks had their chances last night. Certainly the Hawks did play well. And look, we talked about on Friday that Trae had to go for 30. To find the way to win, Trae had to go for 30. Now, he went for 30 back-to-back nights, but they were not able to win on Sunday night. But still, you like that aggressive nature in his offensive game. I think last night Trae had 16 points in the fourth quarter. Like you like that aggressive, because look, the first 2 games of this series were completely different than what the last 2 games were. And this wasn't just a matter of being at home in the home court environment, because look, they've lost 5 straight to the Boston Celtics coming into Friday night. So it wasn't like that they played well home, away, different things like that. And most of those games were blowout games. Most of those games were double-digit games when all was said and done. But I said on Friday, if you're going to go down swinging. Go down with your best player with the ball in his hands and figure out a way to get it done. If you're going to lose, don't lose with your 4th best pitch like Mark Wohlers did in 96 against the Yankees. Go out swinging. And Trae did that. The Friday night game was excellent, and they won. Sunday night, they could not figure out a way to win. But those 2 games were played completely differently than what games 1 and 2 were. You felt like you were in those games all the way. Obviously, they won on Friday, but you felt like that they were right there, able to find a way to get a victory on either night. First 2 games, we were bragging about, well, we cut it to 8, we cut it to 10, and blah, 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 and all this other kind of stuff. Well, look, the reality was that in the first 2 games, you weren't really in those games. At one point in game 1, you're down by 32. In game 2, you were down by 20 at one point. So to say that you were in those games isn't really accurate, but you were in games 3 and 4. And look, it's still going to be about Trae Young and DeJounte Murray leading the way. Your stars have to be your stars, okay? Your stars have to be your stars in these games. That's playoff basketball. Now, they've gotten next to nothing out of John Collins. Collins had 5 points on 1 for 9 shooting last night. And Collins had 8 points on 3 of 7 shooting on Friday night. If they're going to make this a series, and frankly, I will go ahead and spill the beans, and I'll go ahead and give you my prediction. I think the Hawks lose on Tuesday night, and this series will be over. And then look, I'm very much, can I just say, we're just talking between me and you. Can I just say, I'm very much looking forward to the offseason. At this point, they're not going to win this series. They're not going to find a way to beat Boston 2 times up in Boston. They're not going to win 3 straight games. None of that's going to happen. So let's get to the offseason. Let's not drag this thing out and bring it back here. I mean, sorry, but I mean, it is what it is at this point. Hawks had their shot last night. I said last night, the series was either going to start or the series was going to end come Sunday night. Okay, you figure that the Hawks would win on Friday, and they would certainly take it to a game 5. But the series was either going to start. If the Hawks won, the series starts. Now we've got ourselves a series. 2-2 going up to Boston. Anything can happen at that point. Cinderella story out of nowhere, right? I mean, anything can happen at that point. 2-2. Okay. 3-1. Okay. Because I think that there's when teams are down 3-1 in a best of 7 series, I think historically that the team that is down has only won, I think, 5% of the series. It's like 95-5. It's 100-0 in 3-0 series, and it's 95-5 in 3-1. So the idea that the Hawks are going to battle back, and okay, that's just nonsense. Okay, at this point, it is what it is. We had our shot last night, and we didn't get it done. But I like the aggressive nature, especially of Trae Young in the fourth quarter. Did he shoot it well last night? No. He shot 54% from the field on Friday night. He has to shoot better, okay? Because, again, if you're waiting for Collins and even Hunter to a degree, if you're waiting for all of those role players and other guys around him to try to win you a game, they're not going to win it. You saw last night, DeAndre Hunter had 27 points and it didn't really matter. They didn't really matter, and they still lost by 8 last night. Still lost by 8. Even with him going off and 27 points and blah, 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 they still lost by 8 last night. Even for all of his offensive firepower and all the different things that he did, and he shot well, and he shot it from 3 well, and all those kinds of things. We're going to talk about Murray here in just a second, because it does tell you that they are led by Trae and DeJounte. If those guys don't go off, they're not going to win. I'm sorry, but I mean, that's just the reality. I mean, can that change? Does that need to change? Yes. And we talked about this a month or so ago that, okay, Trae Young had a off night, poor shooting, only had 4 field goals, but they won. DeJounte led them. I think he had his career high that night, whatever, 40-something points. Okay, that's all good. Can we build off of that? Can that start to be the trend if Trae does not play well or does not shoot the ball well? Well, you saw over the weekend that when you get against these really good teams, that he's got to shoot the ball better. But again, good win on Friday. They did exactly what they needed to do, and they were in that game all the way. I give them credit. They fought, they scratched. I mean, there's no moral victories in this. This thing is 3-0, and it's, it needs to be done. But the Hawks certainly look like a different team in games 3 and 4 than they did in games 1 and 2. And that's simply not a matter of they played at home. That's a matter of they played better overall. All right, let's talk about our friends over at FanDuel. As you know, FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. And listen, it's MLB season. Everything is underway. Braves had a tough weekend this weekend against the Astros, but you can get in on the action, and FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. New customers to FanDuel.com can claim their no sweat first bet, where you can get as much as $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. You go to FanDuel.com/locked-on. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on. Sign up. It's an app that's safe, secure, super easy to use, and you can claim your no sweat first bet for as much as $1,000 if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel allows you to bet on everything from the winners to prop bets to who's going to homer the most times, anything like that. So download the app and go to FanDuel.com/locked-on, LOCKEDON, and claim your no sweat first bet, where you can get as much as $1,000 in bonus bets simply if your first bet does not win. FanDuel.com/locked-on, LOCKEDON. FanDuel's the official partner of Major League Baseball.